All right, welcome to episode 98 of the Back Nine Six Pack. My name is Justin. I am a lone soldier tonight. Mitch is in Florida on a family vacation. Um, we're going to try to get through this. I will keep rambling, but I'll make sure this is going to be a great episode. We got some good discussions going on, a lot of golf. But first off, March Madness is fully underway, and since Mitch is not here, and I'm the biggest college basketball fan out of the two of us, we got to talk about the games this weekend. Unfortunately, a lot of chalk. But I think there were some good games within the chalk. No mid-majors left in the Sweet 16, which is, I'm not going to lie, it does suck a little bit. But the one thing that I guess the NCAA tournament kind of gets is, they always get crap for, this isn't the best way to decide a champion. Well, now this year we have, I would say, really maybe one surprise, two surprises. Outside of that, you probably have the 14 best teams in the country that made it through. And now everybody's mad that there's not, some Cinderella story. So it's a lose-lose, but no mid-majors left. We got 7 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams, 4 Big 12 teams, 1 ACC team. SEC set a record for the most teams in a Sweet 16. I think the previous record was 6. Ole Miss taking down Iowa State last night, which was not good for me. We bought Iowa State in an auction, but with them taking down Iowa State, SEC broke that record with 7. Other than that, I think the games have been great. We had the McNeese game. I think that was really cool to watch them beat Clemson. I thought the best games, though, were on Sunday. You had that real tight game, Florida UConn. You had finally got a buzzer beater with Maryland taking down Colorado State. Maybe a travel. I don't think you can call a travel there, but still, nonetheless, from what I saw, the Arizona-Oregon game, that game was phenomenal. Caleb Love is an absolute beast, especially when it comes tournament time when he's at North Carolina and now at Arizona. The guy's an absolute, just kills it in the tournament every year, it seems like. Now, my team, Kentucky, I'll tell you this. Look, most winningest program in college basketball history, but the last 5 years have been rough. They've been rough. As a fan, 2 first-round losses, 1 to St. Peter's, which might be the most embarrassing. But then the Oakland kind of got thrown in our face, Jack Golke. It's been a rough time to be a Kentucky fan. But yesterday, Mark Pope, first year, winning with what I would call a hodgepodge of players. They had 2 studs. One stud is out for the season. They've been dealing with injuries all year. They got one of their studs back, but he's hanging on by a thread, playing with one arm, got the other one in the brace. That's Lamont Butler. But they've just been, Mark Pope has put an absolute coaching clinic on this year with just moving pieces around. At one point they're playing games against, Alabama and played at Missouri with their 4th point guard. And then to cap it off last night with the Sweet 16, heading to the Sweet 16. I think it was kind of one of those games, though. It was like he had to win, right? Because, you look at Arkansas, Coach Cal already through the Sweet 16. And then you had BYU win on Saturday as well. His old school, they were moving on to the Sweet 16. It's kind of one of those is like, look, I, as a fan, was like, look, I think this team can beat anybody. I think they can lose to anybody. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't make the Sweet 16. But it was kind of one of those you look at as a fan, you're like, kind of have to win this just to, hold serve, I guess, in the theoretical, fan arguments between the 3 schools. But Mark Pope's done an unbelievable job. I am thrilled I said this many a times when Coach Cal came on, he was the perfect hire. Kentucky needed a resurgence. They needed someone that could do it right away. He was the perfect hire, the only hire, really. And now where Coach Cal got Kentucky to, I think going back to someone that played there, understands the program, Mark Pope is the perfect hire. we'll leave it at that. I'm looking forward to finally seeing the second weekend as a fan. We got Tennessee on Friday night. Can't wait for that. But other than that, yeah, I think we've got, outside the 2 surprises, I think we got the 14 best teams. I'm so excited to see how this shakes out. I think there might be some surprises this weekend when we head into the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. But I'm looking forward to another great 4 days of basketball ahead. And now, if you have not liked or subscribed, liked our Instagram, Twitter, X, please go and like those. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We upload the videos every week. Do that for us. Helps us out. But just a quick reminder on that. Now, professional golf. Okay. Actually, we'll do this first. Best thing I saw in golf this week. We talked a little bit about the Ontario boys last week. How they got tickets, drove all the way from Ontario, Canada, down to the Players. Their week didn't end there, as crazy as that sounds. So Monday comes along, they get to play TPC. Okay? All right, well, whatever. Tuesday comes along, the TGL reaches out to them. They get full backstage passes to TGL, one of the semifinals. The semifinals is on Tuesday between, I believe, Atlanta and the Bay. They're back. They're on the playing field, getting pictures with Billy Ho, seeing all the stars. They got all this merch and everything like that. The story just got better and better, and it was already pretty good last week. So shout out to those kids, man. What a time to be young. I'm just glad they're using it in the right way and just taking an opportunity and running with it. And it turned out to be the best thing that I think they've ever done, and memories they'll never forget. That was the best thing. I was like, how much more is this trip going to get for them? It did finally come to an end, but it was kind of crazy to see things just continually progress and them get more things and people catching on and, offering things to them, which I think is really cool. And that's the cool thing about the golf community is like when stories kind of take off, people start pitching in and to make things memorable for people. And I think that's one of the coolest things. So that's the best thing I saw, adding on to what we already saw last week with the Ontario boys. Now, Valspar Championship, Viktor Hovland gets it done. I'd say amazing fashion because guy's sitting in 14 fairway. He's plus 14 odds. Essentially kind of out of it, with those odds. Somehow wins. He just goes on a tear. JT kind of stumbled down the stretch there. But, man, it looked like last week Viktor Hovland was, and we talked about it on here, was pretty much dead. It felt that way. He's talking about not having control over the golf ball. Heck, as of Friday this week, he's in his interviews was talking about how he just didn't even know where the ball was going or anything like that. And to make that step back on Saturday and Sunday and get another win for him, he looks like he's coming around. It looks like, at least on Sunday, it looked like the Viktor Hovland we kind of knew from 2 years ago, the one that just completely wrecked Scotty in the Ryder Cup, 9 and 8 in the Ryder Cup. I'm a little terrified as a U.S. fan if he catches form because he is one of those guys that can truly match up with our best players. He's just that talented. So it was cool to see him get a win. I'm glad. You never want to see guys struggle. I mean, look, it's going to happen. But when you see him struggle to the point where we're like kind of seeing where Max Homa's at, it sucks to watch as a fan, especially the uber talented guys like Viktor, because you just know golf is better when he's playing good. Like professional golf is better when he's at his best. So I'm glad to see him get back in the winner's circle. And again, crazy way to do it. Like I said, 14 fairway being that far back in odds and strokes and things like that to pull off the win. It's pretty incredible. Some key takeaways from the tournament. We had some anger problems out there this week. Look, Copperhead, I think I know why, but for a lot of reasons, these guys do not play well there. I mean, they struggle with it. It's pretty tight. It's not an easy golf course, smaller greens, but these guys struggle. Look, I mean, when you get anything less than 15 under in a professional, especially a PGA Tour event, that course is no joke. And Copperhead is definitely that. But we had some anger problems out there. Started early on in the week. Patton Kaziri punted a putter and then WD'd. Punted his putter like 30 yards onto the back of the green. And then the anger problems didn't stop there. Adam Hadwin slams a club down on a sprinkler. I swear, I've never seen this. I've seen dudes hit sprinkler heads. I've never seen what happened with Adam happen. So he slams his wedge down on the sprinkler head, and the sprinkler goes off, and he can't get it to shut off. I can't imagine how embarrassing. Like, when you get mad, at least in my opinion, when I get mad, I feel some kind of like shame like 15 minutes later. I can't even imagine getting mad and breaking something that will not shut off. The amount of shame and resentment that he probably felt at that moment. I was kind of reading some comments on X from people, and those pieces are not cheap. I was seeing anywhere between like $500 and $1,000. So it's probably a pretty expensive mistake on his part, and also just the embarrassment of hitting a sprinkler head and making it go off, and trying to get it to shut off. He was over it for it felt like 20 minutes, but it was more like 30 seconds, but he was trying to get it to shut off and just couldn't get it to shut off. So it's kind of funny. I'm sure he's going to take that in stride, though. He is a great follow, him and his wife on X. If you get a chance to swing by there, they're a really good follow. So I'm sure he's going to take it in stride, but pretty embarrassing. So anger problems out at Copperhead this weekend. Notables from this week. JT with a second place finish. Definitely coming in the form. That makes me feel good about the Ryder. It makes me feel better about the Ryder Cup. JT kind of finding his way here. Look, he struggled down the stretch, and Viktor probably earned it, but it was kind of a give and take with JT kind of fumbling down the stretch. But look, again, he's another guy that's like, golf is better with JT involved. And he's coming in the form, and I love it. And might not be a terrible bet for Augusta. He's never really played awesome there, but look, with his talent level, he can definitely go out and win it. So I'm sure his odds are slowly getting changing from day to day as he continues to play better. Bud Cauley, again, another great week. T4 from him, crazy. Seeing him just kind of reemerge out of nowhere, as we talked last week. He kind of disappeared. He got his tour card in the fall swing that one, I don't know, probably 8 years ago. Kind of disappeared, but he's back playing really, 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 really good golf. Another T4 this week. Billy Ho, another T4 for him this week. He's playing better. He's got a big match tonight. We'll get the TGL here in a second. But T4 for Billy Ho. Our one and done pick, Michael Kim, T28. Just, man, we just can't seem to find it when it comes to those. But look, I mean, the guy's a cut machine. His floor is, at this point, it feels like it's, a T30. So essentially we hit his floor this week. Was really hoping to hit his ceiling. But man, it's crazy how well he's playing as far as just making cuts, like we talked about, bogey avoidance. Thought it was going to serve him a little better on this course with how hard it plays. But T28, that earned us $55,000 in our one and done. Now, on to the one and done. So we got $55,000. We stink. We're not good. At this point, we're going to need a miracle. I know we're not even that far into the season, but we're going to need a miracle over the next month, essentially, with the Masters. You've got Hilton Head coming up. We're going to need a miracle just to kind of get back into this thing. But we sit 30 place-wise, we're 3,626th place. Not great. I think there's probably like 5,000 entries, so we're pretty far down the list in entries. But we're going to get back at it this week for the Houston Open. Florida Swing officially complete. I do love the Florida swing, especially when you get to like players. I do like the Valspar. Copperhead's always fun to kind of watch those guys try to make it around. But this week we're on to Texas Houston Open. Memorial Park is another kind of a Copperhead-ish guy. Like, it's not easy. There's certain guys that have, in the last, since they moved it here, have played well here. A handful of guys anyway. Let me get my list pulled up here. So kind of running down the list for guys that we were kind of looking at. Well, I guess one of these would take off the list. But best scoring average at the Houston Open since they moved it to Memorial Park. Minimum 10 rounds. It goes Tony Finau, of course, Scotty Scheffler. And then some surprising ones. We have Aaron Rai, Steven Yeager, Kenzie Hughes. Obviously Scotty, we've already taken him. To me and Mitch were kind of talking this out via text. We deserve to take Aaron Rai because we stink. But I feel like now we're going to pass on him and he's probably going to win because I'm making fun of him. But it was really kind of down to Aaron Rai. Tony Finau is kind of who we were back and forth with. But so we're going to ride Tony Finau just because of the stroke average that he's had on this course since they moved it to Memorial Park. Feels like a safe bet, although Tony has not been playing well. But look, get him back on a course that he's been, he's known to play well on. Maybe we get like a Viktor Hovland-ish comeback from him this week. We desperately need it. And yeah, with the start of the Texas tournaments here, we got back-to-back Texas tournaments, and man, we are right around the corner from the Masters. Cannot wait for that. But so this week, one and done, we are going with Tony Finau. So come on, Tony. We need it. We need a win desperately. We need any win we can get. Heck, I'd take a top 5 at this point. But Tony Finau is our official one and done pick for this week. All right. TGL tonight. Actually, it is on right now. We have the TGO Championship between New York and Atlanta, and we kind of talked about this. This is I think for the TGL as far as actual TV ratings, this is not great for them. Look, I get it. Like there's stars on these teams, but when you think about in the grand scheme of like who's on teams, this is probably the worst matchup they probably could have got out of the playoffs. So we've got New York Golf Club versus Atlanta Drive. The starting lineups tonight are Justin Thomas, Billy Ho, Patrick Cantlay for Atlanta Drive. Then we've got Scam Young, Ricky, and Xander going for New York. I've got it on. I can't really see it from where I'm sitting at here, but once we get off here, I'll get on there and watch it. I did see a cool moment. The second semifinals last week, Patrick Cantlay threw the hammer and walked it off, stuffed it on a par 3. That was pretty cool. But again, I think it's the worst case scenario for the TGL having these two teams. Again, Justin Thomas, I get it, star. But the New York Golf Club lacks star power. Let's just call it what it is. Like Xander's it. God love Ricky. I love him to death. Not quite the star power he was maybe 7-8 years ago. Scam Young is what it is. Pretty much zero juice. But I for the success of this league, I think it's probably the worst outcome they probably could have wished for. Probably from a TV ratings too, I would guess. We'll see when they come out tomorrow. But I would guess from a TV rating standpoint, this is not going to do as well as if you had some of the other teams in the finals. But again, I'll be watching as soon as we get off here. I think it's going to be cool. I guess we don't really know what to expect when it's all over. I know there's a trophy and things like that. I'd love to know what kind of prize money these guys get for this. I don't know. They have to get something right. These guys aren't out there doing it for free. Be curious to know that. I'll have to look that up. But trophy, are they going to be like super excited? I'm curious to see how that end is all going to happen when it culminates tonight. But good luck to both of those teams. Like I said, I'd already DVRing it, so I'll get back and watch the whole thing so I don't miss anything. But definitely no juice in that championship. It lacks juice for sure. All right, we're just cooking right along. I'm by myself. I don't have a companion. We're gonna move on to the patio, and it's just me on the patio with my own thoughts. And I thought there was nothing better to talk about on the patio today than a tweet that kind of blew up yesterday. And I've got very strong takes, and we're going to go through all of these. But let me read this tweet. There's a guy on X called Rick Goffs, also known as Top 100 Rick. Rick travels the world, country, plays top 100 courses. I mean, I think he's played almost every top 100 course. He's either played them all or he's pretty close. He only has a couple more. But he travels all over. And he's a great follow on X. If you're on there, please follow him. He got a lot of insight into playing the top clubs in the country, in the world. I think he just got back from New Zealand. But it's a very interesting follow. I highly suggest. And he kind of talks about other stuff in which we're about to talk about. So Rick tweets out, in quotations, "I could make it on a tour if I had the time." And he goes, "If you are a 25-year-old scratch player and I gave you unlimited time, the best teachers, the best equipment, the best fitness coaches, the odds of you getting your tour card are zero. These guys are so good." And then he tweets out the video, and this all kind of came from the video. If you didn't see it, Billy Ho hit probably one of the best shots I've ever seen. So he hits it left-handed. I think he was about 120 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Let me get a drink here. Throat's getting a little dry. But he's about 120 yards. He was up against a tree. He hits it left-handed, full swing. By the way, perfect left-handed swing. Probably a single-digit handicap left-handed if he really wanted to be. Hits it onto the green. That's kind of that's kind of where this tweet's coming from. Like, these guys are so good. He's hitting better shots left-handed than most scratch golfers probably hit right-handed. The discussion comes in because the comments in the, underneath this tweet were just hideous. Hideous. I mean, the amount of people that think they would even have... Now, he says zero, right? He says there's zero chance. It's probably not zero, but it's probably freaking close to zero. I'm talking like 0.0000001% of a 25-year-old scratch golfer with all the resources in the world to make the PGA Tour. It's not zero, but it's pretty close to zero. But the takes underneath this, and I'm going to read some of these because I think it's absolutely hideous that I think it's two things. It discounts truly how good these guys are and how people that actually watch golf do not understand how good these guys are. And number two, it just proves that everybody thinks they are so much better than they really are. I saw someone, I can't remember who said it, but they're like, "I'm just good enough at golf to realize how bad I am at golf." And that is like the most true thing. And I say that all the time, yes, I'm a plus handicap, but I realize in the grand scheme of things, especially professionals, I am not good. I'm not. I'm just not. On many different levels, some mental, some putting, lot chipping, ball striking, iron-wise, probably. I do drive the ball really, really well. But again, I'm not hitting it as far as most of the pros. I'm pretty straight, but I'm still not hitting it as straight as they are. You know what I mean? So that's, in the grand scheme of things, I am good enough to realize that I suck at golf. I think that's the best way to put it. Now, some of these comments, and then I'm going to get into my points of why I agree with Rick that there is almost a zero chance that a scratch golfer, as good as a scratch golfer is, has with all those resources could never make it. Couple guys tweet out. If I had my first lessons 2 years ago, went from a +1 to a +5 last summer. Give me unlimited time and unlimited money, and I'd be on the tour in 5 years. That's wild. Even if you're a +5, you are a 20 handicapper is closer to you than you are to a PGA Tour at a +5. The courses amateurs play, and we're going to get into more detail, but that is insane. A lot of people are tweeting on here, well, if they're a good athlete, and they have good hand-eye coordination, it's possible. No, it's not. I'm just letting you know. Because I think what people forget is golf has so many different aspects. Just regular golf. Then you throw in PGA Tour, you have travel. You have, am I going to make my bills this month? You have fans that you're dealing with. That is a whole, people watching you. Like that is a whole nother level of like adjusting to, oh, I shot 68 with my buddies. Well, that's not 68 on tour. Like, you're probably shooting 80, just to be honest. But again, we're going to get into that. But I wanted to read a few of these. A couple people were like, oh, so I guess the answer is just be lucky enough to be born into a wealthy family with unlimited country club access at the age of 6. Still don't think that matters. The true answer to that is you still have to be a pretty good athlete. You have to have incredible hand-eye coordination. Yes, some of that does come along with repetition and practicing and stuff like that. But, that's just like saying you played football since you were 6 and that's going to give you the best chance to be in the NFL. It's not true because we know that size matters. Some people just are not going to be as fast as others regardless of the amount of time they train. Golf is no different. And I think that's where people are kind of missing the point where it's like they think golf's different, but it really is not. It's different skill sets. But when you think about it in any sport, NFL, Major League Baseball, there's a certain sense of like natural talent that you have to be able to get to this level of, professional golf. Let me see. There was one more good one. We'll cut it off there. But again, there was a crazy amount of people in here saying that yes, they could, and I'm going to go through why I think that's crazy. My first two examples are two professional golfers I know. One by the name of Tane Lee. I grew up golfing with him. Shout out Tane. Still think he has Korn Ferry status. He had a tournament back during COVID, which was the RBC Canadian, the year they moved it down to Congaree, South Carolina, because all the COVID travel stuff. He had the lead going into Sunday. He had the lead on Saturday. I think he was like tied for the lead going into Sunday. He was the best 12-year-old golfer I've ever seen. I thought I was pretty good. He was unbelievable. He had shots that I couldn't still hit today. Tane took 10 years. This is a guy that was a nominee for the Jack Nicklaus Award. If you don't know what that is Jack Nicklaus names the best golfer in each division of NCAA golf. I think they do the NAIA as well. Tane was a nominee of that. Tane won a Division III National Championship individual. I think he had like a runner-up one of the years. But he played at a Division III school. Think about that. He played at a Division III program. Tane is an unbelievable golfer. It took him 10 years through Monday qualifying and all this just to get to the point where he could have conditional status on the Korn Ferry Tour. Never held a PGA Tour card. Got conditional Corn Ferry, had some injuries. But again, think about that. This guy has all the accolades in the world, has barely sniffed conditional status on the Corn Ferry Tour. That's the first example. My next example is another guy I know, Brian Unk. Shout out to Unk. He's the coach, St. Charles up in Columbus. Phenomenal teacher if you're in Columbus. Highly suggest seeking him out. He's on Instagram. Message him. Great teacher. Great guy. Fun to be around. But he is probably the best golfer I've ever been around, like an extended period of time around. I've played a few rounds of golf. I've caddied for him in a Corn Ferry event. Well, it used to be nationwide, but I caddied for him in an event there. Brian Unk, it's a national championship, Division III again. So, like, college golf is a whole nother story of not realizing how good guys are. I went to Division II school. I walked into Division II. I'm like, well, I'm not going to Division I. Like, I'm a pretty good golfer. I should be able to, like, clean up. Not the case. Found that out really quickly my sophomore year when I watched a guy from Lander University, four-round tournament. He was like 20 or 21 under. Just stupid levels of talent at every level of college golf. College golf, whole nother separate story. But we're sticking on if you could actually get a PGA Tour card and why I believe you can't. So Brian Unk, national champion, Division III. Went to John Carroll. If you're in Ohio, you probably know where that's at. Brian Unk played forever on the Canadian Tour. I think he still has like one of the records for most money earned on the Canadian Tour, or PGA Tour Canada. I think that's what it's called now. Played. I don't know if he's ever played in a PGA Tour event. He's played in a lot of Corn Ferry, a lot of nationwide when he was playing nationwide or Corn Ferry now. Like I said, I caddy for him. And when I caddy for him, he shot 6 under at TBC of Riversmen in Cincinnati. Missed the cut. For those that are in the Cincinnati area, TBC is not like the hardest course in the world, but when it's set up for a professional tournament, it's definitely not easy, and it's still not easy in general. He shot 6 under and missed the cut. Missed the cut. No paycheck. 3 days of work. Actually, he Monday qualified. Practice round, Thursday, Friday round. 5 days of work. No paycheck. He did still pay me. So shout out to my guy, Unk. Still paid me for looping. But that was an experience of a lifetime. But I tell people this story. I at that moment in my golf career, I thought, I can still do this. Like, I think if I have a chance, like, I can still do this. And the moment that I realized that there was no shot, literally no shot, I was never going to be that good. I'm standing on the range on Thursday, and I'm watching guys hit balls, and I'm just like, my golf ball doesn't sound like this. My golf shots do not sound like this. My golf shots do not fly like this. And again, I'm not a bad striker of the golf ball, but they do not sound like these guys are hitting the golf ball. And at that moment, I realized that golf was going to be a really, really fun hobby for me when I get into grown-up life in 3 or 4 years. I was going into my sophomore year, so it had been like 3 years later, I just realized golf was just not going to happen. But Brian Unk is, again, by far the best golfer that I've had an extended period of time around. The guy, when we played, like, I kid, like 10-footers or gimmies. Like, he never hit the ball super far, but the guy could get up and down from anywhere and putt and make any putt when he needed to, it felt like. But Brian Unk, all that time in PGA, never even sniffed getting a card. Had a great career on the Canadian Tour. Great career in general. He's won, like, I think 3 or 4 Ohio Opens. Never even sniffed getting a PGA Tour card. That guy never even sniffed it. So those are my first 2 people examples that I kind of know that just never even came close. And they're some of the best golfers in the country. I think Tane's like 1900 in the world. Like, he's ranked in the world. Not even sniffing a tour card. My next thing comes to what I just had the pleasure of going through is the actual courses, okay? I don't think people realize that courses are set up on Saturdays at your local club a lot differently than what they're set up for even a high amateur event, but specifically a professional event. So I played in the Clovernook Open, great event, great standalone mini tour-ish event where you get guys that are kind of nomads that come in and play, amazing golfers. They made that course look way easier than it is. But my point being is I've probably played Clovernook 100 times. I've played really well at Clovernook. I can't really even remember a time that I shot above 76 out there, ever. Most of the time I've somewhere between, I think I've shot 68 out there. I've shot, somewhere between 68 and 73 every single time I play that course. This year when I played in the Clovernook Open, and again, I've played this course hundreds of times. I get out there and the setup it's stupid. Like, these pins were unbelievably hard. I think the pins alone for the tournament made that course 2 to 3 shots harder. But again, they're setting up for a professional tournament. This isn't a Saturday out at the club. Heck, the pins were exponentially harder than our city championship that was hosted out there 2 years prior. Like a high amateur, it's essentially a college tournament now. The pins were exponentially harder. There were some pins I'm like, I never even thought they would even put a pin here, but they did. So the actual courses, so that's the one experience. Heck, even in the high amateur events, I played in the Ohio Mid-Am this year. The course setup was crazy hard. Coldstream would have never even imagined setting the course up like that for a Saturday or Sunday or a Friday afternoon. Never, ever, ever. So trying to adjust to that if you're playing a local muni or your local golf club where you're like, I shot 68 today. In reality, yes, you played good. You played really good. But in reality, you take that to a PGA Tour venue. Heck, even if you shot 65 at your local club, you take that to a PGA Tour venue, you may be 2 over at best. Probably even higher than that. And my biggest example is I just came back from Cancun, played Mayakoba. Mayakoba's hosted a list of PGA Tour, LPGA, LIV. It is a high quality professional tour venue. I shot 83. I played pretty good. I really did. I played the tips, shot 83, hit the ball pretty good. Scoring was iffy, but I played pretty good. Flash forward a week. I play at my local club, 72. Hit the ball about the same, 11 shots lower. That is the quality of golf courses that I just don't think people understand, that the step up from what they're playing, even if they think they're an amazing golfer, the step up in course venue is exponential. The slopes, the ratings, green speeds, bunker settings. People don't understand until you actually play a lot of these courses that in tournament conditions, I didn't even play Mayakoba in tournament conditions, how much harder they are than your local muni, your local golf club. They just don't understand. That's just one portion of the pie, is the actual courses. Tournament experience. Tournament scoring, I've always had this rule. Tournament scoring, you're going to shoot 3 to 5 shots worse on average in a tournament. And not even because of the courses. Tournaments are different. Balls have to hit the bottom of the hole. How many times do you think, a really good golfer is out with his buddies and rakes a 3-footer? Probably a lot. It probably happens a ton. Well, now you have a 3-footer in a tournament that has to hit the bottom of the hole. Whole different ball game. And then you take it for another step further. You're making 3-footers for a cut line, a paycheck. If you don't make it, you're not getting paid that week. A whole different level of pressure. I mean, it just is. Tournament pressure is already a lot. Then you throw in livelihood, getting paid, making your mortgage payment, whole different ball game. So that's another portion of the pie that, a 25-year-old that, let's just say he didn't play college golf, has to adjust to. And it takes years of experience to do so. I mean, it takes 10, I'd say it alone that takes 10 years to get used to playing. Maybe some guys, if they're tough mentally, maybe 5 years, but tournament experience is a gigantic portion of the pie that, a scratch golfer, let's just say, didn't play college golf and you gave him all these resources, that is a gigantic hurdle to get over. Gigantic. Monumental, probably. And that, if there's nothing else that snags them, that would be what would snag them. The mental side of playing in a tournament, the pressure of playing for money, that kind of money would just be exponential. And then trying to, just the idea of trying to become one of the best 125 golfers in the world. 125 in the world. Of all the golfers. That alone is 0.00 whatever percent of the golfers. Top 125. That's what you're shooting for when you say you can get a tour card. In Q school alone, you can go out and shoot 12 under in 4 rounds and pack your bags and your $5,000. You're out of here. You're not on to the next stage. Think about that for a second. Just truly, truly amazing. And the one big point that people brought up, 2 main stories that most of us probably know. Ian Poulter was a 25-year-old club pro. Supposedly on paper was a 4 handicap. Started working at it. Obviously, we know the rest is history. Tour wins, Ryder Cup wins. Probably a Hall of Fame career. Maybe not, because lacking majors, but an incredible professional golfer. Gary Woodland played college basketball, went out, got on the PGA Tour. Just because those exist does not mean that's the rule. They are by far the exception to that rule. And it's completely the exception to that rule. They're 2 out of how many guys we don't even know about tried to do that, right? It's just exponential. They're definitely not the rule. Look, amazing careers. Gary Woodland's got a major, but Gary Woodland, again, kind of bringing in that athlete. He's an athlete, right? Probably has incredible hand-eye coordination, a good base. He's physical wise, he's built for it, right? Probably mentally, he kind of, even if he didn't have a ton of tournament experience when he started trying this, mentally playing competitive sports probably helped him. But that's the other thing, is when you're talking about a random 25-year-old, how many of those actually have college experience playing athletics? Not golf. I'm not even talking about golf, just basketball or football, baseball, whatever it might be, track and field. They might not even have that. So when you start talking about having that mental capacity to kind of go out and compete, they might not even have that. And I truly think that mental aspect is probably the largest hurdle. Even if they got to the point where they were shooting scores on these courses that could make cuts and get a tour card, the mental aspect of that, and we see it in the best golfers. We were just talking about Viktor Hovland earlier in the episode, that sometimes shit just goes wrong and your head's in the wrong place. Even for the best golfers in the world that have a proven track records, have mental hurdles. And I think that of all the here's why it won't happen, the mental aspect of it, of playing in tournaments and things like that, is probably the largest hurdle that you'd have to get over in order to do that. For that, I agree with Rick. I don't think it can be 0 if you're talking about odds of making it, but there's a lot of zeros after the decimal point before you get to the 1. For a 25-year-old with unlimited resources, scratch golfer, to make the PGA Tour. Well, I had to get that off my chest. I'm glad I did. If you want to see it, go to Rick's page. I think he's got it pinned at the top. I didn't even go through half the responses. I've been battling battles in that thread for a better part of a day, because I just think people are absolutely blind to the fact of how good these guys truly, truly are. And I would say this, if you think I'm wrong, the next professional golf tournament you go to, go sit on the range and watch these guys hit golf balls. And you will realize that you will never hit a golf ball like that in your entire life. So, all right. Well, I think that just about does it. Actually, not too short of an episode, but a little worried about maybe going a little short tonight. But that'll do it for tonight. Thank you for listening. If you have not, again, please like us on Instagram, on X, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, we're going to post this. You get to look at my beautiful face all by myself this week if you watch it on YouTube. I am working on some merch. We'll see about that. And then the 100th episode, I think we finally got a plan in place. I'm very much looking forward to that leading up to the Masters. But other than that, enjoy the basketball games over the next 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we'll be back here next week with Mitch once he gets back out of his beach phase. See you guys later.